Welcome everyone to Post Crisis Chat. I'm your co-host Randy, and with me is the ever-present.
You can call me Cookie. And you know what? I'm gonna make you guys a deal. If we get up to 100 subscribers, I will give you the backstory onto why you can call me Cookie.
I
It will
like
make
it.
Randy laugh.
Very good.
If you're a first-time viewer, we want to welcome you. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time we drop episodes.
Absolutely. These are such small things to do, liking the video, getting notified, but it really does help us grow the channel. If you're not one of our first-time viewers, I want to welcome you back. We are so thankful to have you here.
This is the part we got to advise you about the decades-old spoilers that we will be discussing today. If you're like us, you're late to the show. You probably already know the spoilers, but you know what? We got to give the advice anyways. And speaking of today, we will be discussing issue 37 of Swamp Thing. I got the single issue right here. It's written by, I don't know why I've got to look. It's the same creative team as almost always, but it's Alan Moore on writing. We've got Rick Veitch, though, this time on the artwork. So I did have to check it. And of course, John Totlebon doing the inks. Talked about it before. I want to throw out there, need to discuss again. This man does a wonderful job on inking. I love this guy as an inker. He does such a good job. He even, if you had Bissett inking his own artwork, it would probably give you more reason to complain.
I think you're 100% spot on with that. The one cover that we've seen John Totlebon do, I think he's only done one so far, but that one cover was freaking amazing. Like, I want to see this guy's pencils.
Yeah, a really talented artist. He's actually somebody that I want to start looking into more of now that I'm kind of aware of him. I want to see what else he's done because he does a good job. I
Absolutely.
have no complaints with Vetch either. Vetch is a really, really good artist.
And we'll talk about that definitely as we go through this issue. I also do want to mention it's interesting that Rick Veitch is also the person who picks up Swamp Thing in a writing capacity once Alan Moore's run is over. So he went from being a penciler over to being a writer. And I'm actually really looking forward to reading his issues. We just very recently found out that his Rick Veitch's third trade paperback is finally going to be published, and it's going to be published with a Swamp Thing story that DC refused to release back in the day because of its controversial subject matter. I cannot wait to get our hands on that, and we will definitely be reviewing it for the channel. Let's switch back to Swamp Thing here in the present. This is number 37. I want to talk about this cover. This cover is weird. Having read the issue previously, I think I understand what it's going for, but I don't really like this composition. The overall art on the cover isn't bad. The Swamp Thing that's kind of on the ground, at the bottom, his face is weird. I'm not sure this cover would catch my eye if I was browsing in a comic book store. Viewers, do you remember if you were there when this issue came out? What did you think of this cover? Did you like it? Is this a cover that would make you pull the book off the shelf and go, I need to read this?
I'd be curious too. I kind of feel like most of the people that were probably buying Swamp Thing at this point were buying it because of Alan Moore and probably didn't care about the cover or the artwork. But it's not a great cover. Swamp Thing on the ground looks like just a sad old man sitting there, just like all sad. Like Matlock isn't on, and he's just got nothing to do. He's like waiting for Wheel of Fortune to start or something.
It's supposed to represent Swamp Thing growing back after he died the last issue. It kind of does that. I take that green sketchy look behind him, his spirit waiting to inhabit the body once the body's done being built. That's what I take
That's
from
what
it.
I took from it.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
agree. That's what I'm getting it too. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's not the best representation of that, but I don't know. Who am I to judge?
The other thing is, we kind of already talked about this a little bit. I mentioned it in my notes, especially. We have someone besides Bissett on art duties, and that makes me so happy and excited. I'm very much looking forward to see what Vetch brings to the table. As far as I know, this is my first encounter with his artwork. We kind of already covered that. I don't want to go backwards. So we started day one. Not sure what the countdown is here for, but Abby's having a conversation with someone who I assume is her coworker. The thing she is eating looks very suspiciously like a phallic Swamp Thing yam. But a little bit later, it gets revealed it's actually just a carrot.
I'm a little bit more concerned with it. That first panel looks like a cashew with like a rat tail hanging out of it. You're seeing that, right?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. All I know is it's a little suspicious. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but it is not a great look.
I didn't notice it that closely upon initial reading of the book, but yeah, I agree with you. So at this point, Abby mentions that a friend, no doubt Swamp Thing, is on vacation and hopes he gets back okay. That's the end of day one. Day two, I have been waiting the entire podcast. The whole time we've been doing this channel, I've been waiting for this moment. Do you know why, Cookie? Do you know why I've been waiting for this
Oh,
moment?
I know exactly why, and I didn't know this was the issue that this happened in. So this was a little bit of a pleasant surprise to me. I'm gonna let you take over here because you're about to burst with
I
excitement.
am. I am. This is so exciting. It's John Constantine, my favorite scumbag magician in the DC universe. I love him as a character. He's probably my favorite character in the DC universe. Now, a lot of people know I'm a big fan of Batman. I have lots of Batman stuff. That's mostly because they don't really make John Constantine stuff. Not a lot of it anyway. So I have Batman stuff because he's up there in my hierarchy. But Constantine, my favorite. He's such an a hole. It's great. In general, not, well, he is in this circumstance too, but in general, that's what I like about him. He's speaking to somebody
Now,
named Judith. Yep, go ahead.
but now before we get into this, I'm gonna throw out there. I want you to pay very close attention in this issue, and I'll drop it at the end. But pay very close attention as to what Constantine looks like. His face, everything. Pay very close attention to the way the man looks, and I'm going to quiz you on why he looks like that.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So he is speaking to Judith about something that is coming back. Judith says the thing coming back is, quote, massive extragalactic energy field that got drawn inside a black hole 8 billion years ago. It's nothing supernatural at all. End quote. Honestly, that sounds awesome. I cannot wait to find out more.
I kind of feel like hearing it now, like the time I read it, it didn't connect, but now hearing it after like putting the thoughts together, that sounds very suspicious, a little bit like the anti monitor.
Could be, could be. We talked a little bit on the last episode about why we didn't like the previous two issues of Swamp Thing because it mostly felt like filler. And my personal opinion is the coming crisis, which starts being previewed here, Alan Moore was given a directive: you have to incorporate the crisis, you have to set up events for the crisis ahead of time. You get two more issues, and then you have to start doing crisis stuff. And I think that's what this issue is. I think this issue is crisis stuff.
I agree.
So, last issue, we know that Swamp Thing passed away from being forced to ingest toxic waste. This issue, we find him growing back. He finds it strange that he has grown back, and I feel that's a bit out of character for him since he's grown back before. Maybe he thought the toxic waste death was something different this time? I don't know.
That's actually kind of a good question. I didn't really think about that, but he has died and come back several times now. I kind of feel like he wouldn't be as worried. Like he knows he can come back. That is something they probably should have touched a little bit further on. Like, why was he so concerned about coming back this time?
I'm going to be honest. I think this was just Alan Moore not thinking it through, which, he can't be perfect.
More than likely, that is exactly what it is. I think at this point, especially if you're right, and it's like those were two filler issues because they needed that before they could start touching on the crisis stuff. He probably didn't. He's just like, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't really care. We're going to move on to the next, part of the story now.
Right. Then we cut back to Constantine and Judith. Whatever is coming back in a year or less, which this happens to set up. This is about a year before the end of the crisis, roughly, give or take a couple of months. And Judith is no longer having, quote, the nightmares. And that's because she hasn't slept in 3 weeks. As somebody who has dealt recently with not being able to sleep due to certain circumstances beyond my control, I was not able to sleep for like 3 days. And I was in such a miserable and awful place. I couldn't imagine what it's like not being able to sleep for 3 weeks.
I've tried the 24-hour comic challenge 3 years in a row. I didn't do it this year, but like I've tried it 3 years in a row, and just trying to do that, stay up 24 hours to do a comic book. By like hour 7 or 8, I'm dead tired. I'm grumpy. I don't even want to deal with anybody, and that's just 8 hours into doing that. So I can't even imagine going 3 days. I would I would probably be in prison right now for like trying to assault people.
Yes, make sure you get your sleep, Cookie. We don't want you in prison. It would make it very difficult to record the show. On this page, we get some trippy looking art at the top, like the psychedelic Constantine in this situation. And you know what? I love that Vetch knows how to draw a face, unlike Stephen Bissett. I'm here for it after all the poor faces that we've had drawn by Bissett. Having a different artist shows how much this book can truly shine when we have the right artist in place. We mentioned that Vetch is going to be writing Swamp Thing once Alan Moore's run is done. I recently got Vetch's 2 release trade paperbacks. I haven't read them yet. I was just flipping through looking at the art, and it's not Bissett on the art, and it looks so amazing. And I just, I, I and we're stuck with Bissett till the end of Alan Moore's run for the most part. So anyway, I
It's
digress. Any thoughts from you on the art here?
I like the artwork. I am actually a little bit of a Vetch fan. I mean, not like a huge fan, but the times that I have seen his artwork, I do enjoy him. I've got to defend Bissett a little bit. I don't hate Bissett. I'm just not a fan of his Swamp Thing run. It's not the top notch of like what I've seen him do. I've seen him do some really good stuff outside of, I must say, probably superhero work. Like some of his dinosaur stuff is really amazing. But Vetch, I was very happy to see Vetch on here because I do enjoy his work on Swamp Thing when he gets a chance to draw it. It's really cool. The psychedelics, I took that as because I assume they're in a club. That I mean, I didn't see the background too well, but it looks like there's some people kind of like silhouettes in the background. The way that Judith is drawn, it looks like she's like a punk rock kind of chick.
Yeah, I agree. They're in a club, but she's also doing copious amounts of drugs, like a lot of drugs.
If you're in a punk rock club, what else are you gonna do? Listen to the music? But I figure the psychedelic thing is the light that they're going for. That's a cool effect to draw on there of having the lights reflect off of Constantine's face. That's that's really psychedelic, and I dig it.
Yeah, I agree. The bottom half of this page, and I kind of dig how they're like top half is Constantine, bottom half is Swamp Thing. So we get to the bottom half of this page, and Swamp Thing is thinking about what he needs to grow. He needs some eyes so he can see what's going on. And he knows that growing is going to take some time, and he decides to rest while he grows and sleep. Next, we jump to day 4. Abby is in the swamp looking around for Swamp Thing. She feels him nearby. Then, in typical Morris style, we get a close up of Abby's eyes.
Point out the fact that Abby's wandering around the swamp in a dark cloak, which a cultist kind of looked when I first saw it. I mean, I knew it was Abby, but like my mind drifted to like, oh, Raven, because it almost had like a Raven looking cloak to it.
A little bit, yeah, I see that.
The eyes thing, I feel like we probably should have been keeping track of how many times they've been showing close ups of the eyes because it happens so often.
That's really a more thing in this book. I'm not sure why. She's shining her flashlight around in the dark, and I think it being dark just points to how much concern and worry she has for Swamp Thing. She's like out here in the middle of the night. Presumably, it's the middle of the week, or maybe it's Friday night and she's just gotten off work and she's out here, looking around in the dark. That's how important he is to her, and that's very sweet that she's out here trying to find him. And she does. She finds the tiny little plant that will soon be Swamp Thing with her flashlight. Then we move to day 5. I thought you might have something to say about it.
I'm looking forward to day 5. I got stuff to say about day 5.
Okay. We move to day 5. Constantine is paying a visit to Benjamin, who seems to also know that, quote, he is coming back. Benjamin seems to think that it is Cthulhu that is coming back, as opposed to something that was dragged into a black hole. Benjamin thinks it will be here in about 12 months, which is consistent with what Judith said earlier.
The look of Benjamin it's kind of interesting. Of like this guy's supposed to know something. To me, when I first saw him, I got Doc Ock vibes. He looks like Doc Ock before he became a villain. The haircut and the glasses and everything. But I love the fact that he's got the stutter. He does not seem like the kind of important person that would have the information that he does have. And I don't know if that's something Elmore does a lot. I've never paid attention to it. He's taken a character that seems like a nobody, but he's got these deep connections and knows something bad is coming. I don't know why, but that just strikes me as like kind of cool.
I don't know if you noticed, but in addition to think it's being Cthulhu that's coming, there's also a Lovecraft poster in the background. To me, the fact that he's got a Lovecraft poster, the fact that he thinks it's Cthulhu, the fact that he's drawing weird symbols on paper, it makes him a little less reliable.
I guess he's reliable. He does kind of come off a little bit like a conspiracy theorist.
I'm sorry, a little less reliable would have been what I was going for. Considering all that, he comes off as somebody who's maybe a little bit on the crazy end of the scale, the crackpot end of the scale, or he's just trying to see what he wants to see since he's a Lovecraft and Cthulhu fan. I take his interpretation with a much bigger grain of salt than I did Judith, given the situation.
Which is hilarious because Judith, you shouldn't be taking into any consideration either because she's doing drugs. So it's like her mind wouldn't be in the right place either.
Or her mind isn't exactly the right place due to the drugs. This is Alan Moore we're talking about.
That is true. You both are hippies.
So then we move on to day 6, and we cut back to Abby watering Mini Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is mildly annoyed that Abby is watering him and not the soil. He will potentially burn due to the water on him magnifying the sunlight. My partner is a very big plant person. I was aware of all of these facts due to the fact that I have tried to water plants for her and been told that I do it wrong. So I'm aware of these things thanks to her. I can understand how your average layman who was not ridiculously an expert about plants would not understand those things.
Yeah, I've done the same thing when I used to work at CVS and stuff. And during the summer, they'd have the plants out in front of the building. I'd be watering. I had to have somebody come out and tell me, water the soil, not the plant, but the soil.
Right.
Because I was just sitting here spraying the hose all over the plants.
I almost find it a little amusing that Abby sprays Swamp Thing with insecticide, and he really does not like that. Like, does not like that. He says it burns and he wishes she wouldn't use it. His next plan is to develop a voice so he can tell her she's doing it wrong.
To me, I don't do a lot of gardening or anything, but it's stuck in my head now. Like, if I ever do any gardening, I'm probably not going to invest in any pesticides because now I'm going to be thinking of Swamp Thing.
Well, it's generally not a good idea, depending on the pesticide. There's some organic pesticides that are not as harsh as regular pesticides that are okay. But if you ever have any plant questions, ask my partner because that's what she does. She's the plant lady. Also, want to point out that the art on this page, where Abby is watering and spraying Swamp Thing with Raid, the art is gorgeous. Like, I am really, really digging Vetch's art. I mean, the face looks good. Abby and Swamp Thing look good in their respective panels. The panel work is good. I know you like to talk about that. I kind of like how even like with the coloring after she sprays the Raid, you see all these little like pink nodules on him that almost look kind of sickly.
Yeah,
The art on this page is just gorgeous. I'm gonna shut up because I'm gushing.
it's really good. I'd love to see like the uninked pages. I'm sure those don't exist, but the uninked pages would have looked like. And then obviously Totlebon does a really good job on the inks. The colorist, I think, did an amazing job on the use of color in here. Everything. This is one of the better drawn issues of Swamp Thing. I'm actually really, really happy with it.
Yeah, it really is.
Kind of agree. I want more Veitch.
So then we hit day 7. Abby finds a hole on Swamp Thing, and she thinks something has eaten its way inside of baby Swamp Thing. Turns out the hole is actually his mouth, and Swamp Thing is able to tell Abby no more sprays. Abby thinks Swamp Thing should thank her for covering him in sun magnifying water. She's like, she's almost a little offended that she did it wrong. Not a lot, just a little. How about thanks for all the
Well,
water?
she, yeah, I was gonna say I like that panel too because the way she says it with, "Well, pardon me, how about thanks for all the water?" I write it in a sarcastic tone because of the look on her face, which I
Yeah,
was like, "That was pretty good."
I agree 100%. That's good talking about her face because if this had been a Bissett panel, it would not have come across the same way. We move on to day 8. Swamp Thing is getting bigger, and we see Constantine visiting a nun. The sister also mentions he is coming back. Constantine laments that he does not know who is coming back or where they are coming from. The sister thinks it will be less than 12 months until he comes back. Again, getting that timing in with the crisis, the coming crisis.
Mhm.
But she also thinks that it's going to be Satan coming back because she's a nun, and of course she does.
To be fair, you could kinda consider the Anti-Monitor Satan. I mean, he is basically there to destroy the multiverse,
Mm,
so that is a very Satan thing. That bottom panel, that face is just chef's kiss. That is so,
uh
so
huh.
good looking.
Yeah, gonna bring that up next. And even not even just the face. Look at the detail and the line work on the. I don't know if that's supposed to be a painting or like an etching or a carving behind the nun. But man, look at the line.
It
You would have not have gotten that line work out of Bissett at all, nor that face. I mean,
Yeah, and I like, Scott Eaton when he does fill-in issues. I think they're pretty good issues and stuff like that, but you wouldn't have even gotten that kind of detail. It's like Veitch is such a good artist at stuff like this. He really, really puts in a lot of good detail into things, and this is where you're seeing, like, the man shine.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm almost a little sad. I don't know. I haven't looked too closely at Vetch's later issues of Swamp Thing. Maybe he did draw some of them, pencil some of them, but I'm a little sad that he's the writer and not the penciler. But I don't know. Maybe he's a great writer too. And I'll get there again. I digress. But we move on to day 9. Swamp Thing has gotten bigger and he's grown eyes. We get to see a close up of Swamp Thing's face, and it actually looks really good here. Swamp Thing can't see Abby very well, but he can see some things, and we get treated to what Abby looks like from Swamp Thing's point of view because his eyes haven't completely fully developed yet. But I really like the faces on these panels. I like the panel work too because it's almost like a rocker style in the middle of the page.
I really like the way Vetch draws Abby because I kind of feel like looking at it now, he gives her a little bit more personality in his artwork. Like I'm feeling a little bit more of smart aleck sense to her, a little bit more fun loving.
Yeah.
The Abby that I've been reading for the past, like, whatever issues we're on here, it's been a hit and miss with Abby. Like there's times where her face looks very, we'll just say not good.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm really loving this the way that she looks here. Like I can actually see why people like Abby from this issue.
I agree. 50% of that is the art. I think the other 50% is that Alan Moore did a really good job of writing Abby when she was with Matt as this scared person, this insecure person. Matt helped enforce those insecurities. And now that she's out from under him and out from under his influence, and she's got Swamp Thing as her influence, and somebody who loves her for her, somebody who's not really trying to change her or make her different. She's coming into her own. She's realizing who she is as a person. I think that writing of her is also what's coming through in making her look like a better person. But I agree, the other 50% is 100%. The other 50% is definitely the art. That art
Yeah.
makes a huge, huge deal with the facial expressions, especially.
Oh yeah, definitely.
At this point, Abby starts laughing at Swamp Thing because, quote, you sound like Jiminy Cricket. I love the adolescent Swamp Thing in the background, the fact that he appears to be frowning. Like, are you making fun of me? I literally laughed out loud at this panel because of the expression
Yeah.
in his face. Like, oh my gosh.
Now it kind of has it's like a ugly cuteness to him, the way that
Yeah,
he's drawn. I really enjoy that. It was kind of cool at the same time.
and ugly cuteness is a perfect way to describe adolescent teenage boys. And that feels like what Swamp Thing is at this point, like an adolescent teenage boy going through all those changes and unhappy that somebody's making fun of him. He's even got a little fuzz there, like an adolescent teenage boy. That's just killing it here. Absolutely killing it.
He really is. He's doing a good job. This issue really kind of picked up, especially I was so disappointed with the last two issues that this one kind of sucked me back in. I was like, all right, I'm enjoying this one. Artwork, story wise, is just all this is just a really good issue.
Then we transition back to nighttime, and Abby is telling Swamp Thing about Swamp Thing's death from toxic waste in the previous issue from her perspective. Apparently, Swamp Thing took weeks to come back from it, and she wasn't sure if he was going to make it. The way he talks, neither was he, which kind of reinforces. In the last episode, we talked about how it was weird he was afraid to die, but also maybe he was afraid to die because of the toxic waste part of it. I think this kind of reinforces that that's why he was afraid to die.
Yeah, definitely. Which it helps now because, like you said, we've seen him regenerate a couple times. So it kind of like throughout, sometimes like even just like a little throwaway line like that will kind of help you understand the character's perspective, even if you're thinking like, oh, well, okay, you're basically an elemental. Why are you so worried? But of
Right.
course, us as the readers, we know that because of Abby's dream from a few issues back, that we kind of know what Swamp Thing is, but he's not aware of that yet.
That's
So he
true.
would still be worried.
Yeah, absolutely. Abby also mentions that Nukeface from the last two issues is rumored to be dead, and there is a pregnant woman at the hospital somehow connected with him, which would be Treasure. And if you'd like to know more about Treasure, see our last two videos. If she's still pregnant, that means maybe the line I thought about of the baby in the last issue wasn't correct. I'm not sure. But this is almost a throwaway line, it seems like, just an acknowledgement of the last issue. Hey, look, we have continuity.
Yeah, I kind of felt like they're not throwing anything out there as like little nuggets of information that will come up later on. What we'll do, we'll just call it seeds of information that will sprout and grow into a more important story down the road. It's like you said, it's just something that, like, oh, hey, by the way, this happened.
Right. Swamp Thing says he'll be rooted in place for another week, and it appears Abby is asking because she would like more yams. Hmm. Seriously, though, see our previous episode for more info on yams. Day
I,
11,
I
we
like
see.
the
Sorry, go ahead.
I like the panel there with them kissing. That is a really, really beautiful looking panel.
Yeah, I agree. That is the artwork throughout this issue is just, oh, chef's kiss. Then we move on to day 11. We see Abby sleeping next to Swamp Thing while he watches over her. And then we switch to Constantine waking up. He calls Americans all mouth and trousers. I'm not quite sure what that means, but the friend he is staying with calls him a bigot. Do you know what that means?
The trousers line,
Yeah, the all mouth and trousers.
I have no idea. I took it as they're speaking at the mouth and thinking what the thing that's in their trousers. Like that's essentially what's
Okay.
going on. But I have no idea. I don't know British slang worth anything.
If anybody's familiar with the British version of English as opposed to our bastardized American version, do you have any idea what all mouth and trousers means? I'd love to know. Seriously, make a comment. So we see Hellblazer has spent the night with his friend. He's laying in bed, apparently without clothes. His friend is up and drawing a picture. She mentions that whoever is bringing this entity back, that everybody knows is coming back, whoever's bringing him back will have to increase the belief levels of the entire population in order to bring whoever this is back. Constantine says that this is what they are going to do by using classic frighteners like werewolves, vampires, haunted houses, and dreams. We see this woman drawing a man running who has a backwards head, and we don't see the man's right arm. And apparently, this is a man she is seeing in her nightmares.
Looking at it now, it's like that's a pretty good detailed drawing within a detailed drawing.
It is. I like that an
That's
artist has put an artist in the book.
I don't usually see that kind of stuff. The only other time I've personally ever noticed an artist within a comic book was Kyle Rayner, who was an artist.
Hmm.
Pay very close attention to that drawing too, because it's like it feels like that's going to be very important later on.
I think so too. On the next page, we move on to day 12. A Swamp Thing awakens in the shadows of late afternoon. Abby will be there soon. Swamp Thing finds her remarkable for adapting to this change so quickly. Swamp Thing notices that he has learned so much about what he is, and that is changing him himself. He is starting to become more in tune with his own powers. He's a little bit worried about what he is becoming. And I think that he's probably worried about that due to how his relationship with Abby is going to develop. Because as he changes, he's moving further away from being human, moving further away from that human love, things of that nature.
That's kind of a good thing. I want to say we touched on that a little bit in one of the previous episodes of how this relationship would work with him basically being a plant, not being human at all, and then her being human. So it's like, how was this going to work? I like that he's addressing that and he's addressing the concerns that Swamp Thing's having with that. That page, oh wow.
Yes, I had a little bit more to say about the story, and then yes, we're going to get to that page because I definitely have that in my notes. But what I wanted to say is somebody kind of figured out who I was and who I want to be maybe a little later in life than other people did, having gone through a similar transition, going, I'm a different person than I was even just a few months ago. How is that going to change my relationship with the people, not just with my partner, but all the people I love? What's that going to look like? And Swamp Thing, at this point, basically, he only has one friend. I think it would be especially harder without that support network, not knowing what the change you're going through is going to end up looking like and how other people are going to react to it, how Abby's going to react to it. I can understand why he's frightened by what he has become.
Definitely. All this stuff has happened at such a fast rate for him, even though like for us, it's only a couple issues and stuff like that. And it's happened over a couple of years, but it's all happened consecutively in this like major way of like you learn you're not Alec Holland, you're a plant, and then you're coming to terms with that. You're still trying to learn who you are, but you now also have to address your feelings that you have for this human woman. Like there's a lot of things happening in his life that I mean, dude's kind of messed up.
Yeah, no doubt. And then let's talk about this art because you kind of mentioned it before, and I also wanted to comment on this art, the way this page is split into different irregular shaped panels, but it still contains Swamp Thing's face, even though the panels are kind of dividing it up. And the Vetch line drawings are so good. The panel work itself, all these different pieces of him are developing. He's not sure exactly who he is right now, and the fact that it shows his face split apart like that as he's trying to come together, figure out who he is. The symbolism is amazing.
Symbolism is fantastic because looking at the page, I don't know if Vetch planned this out to specifically do this with the symbolism, but you have, like you said, it's fragmented with something's core face and essentially the main panel, which, if you pay attention, is designed in the form of a cross. So, which could be essentially like, is he kind of saying Swamp Thing is like a holy figure among the green? Is he kind of like the green's version of Jesus? Plus, he's just recently resurrected, or he's resurrecting in this issue. So you've got that happening.
That's interesting foreshadowing considering Vetch's issue that was unpublished. Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's a good point I didn't catch. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
there's a lot kind of happening there, and then of course you got the fragmented pieces, and the fragmented pieces are the parts that are not the cross, and they literally look like they're kind of just flowing just freely out into the ether of the panel. And this is the kind of thing, like as an artist, like you want to study how to do panel work like this because this is the kind of stuff that I feel like a lot of artists really admire.
Yeah, this whole thing is just phenomenal. This page, yeah, up there with one of the best pages in comics I've ever seen. Definitely the best page of Swamp Thing that I've seen so far. Absolutely phenomenal. Enough gushing about that page. We move on to day 13. We see Abby leaving Swamp Thing while at the same time getting a conversation happening in the captions around the pictures of Abby leaving Swamp Thing. Constantine says he is heading for Louisiana and he has to be there by the morning. Emma is unhappy that he's leaving and wants him to stay one more night. The next thing we know, Constantine is popping up at the back of Abby's car, and it looks like it scares the hell out of her when he does. It looks like he, in fact, did leave Emma and did not stay another night.
I think that's one of the only panels that I was kind of like, okay, I'm not too fond of the artwork in this particular panel, but whatever, not a big deal. I don't know, like Constantine doesn't look like Constantine in the shadows.
I think with that panel, what we're getting is we're actually seeing Abby's interpretation of what she sees Constantine as. He's a dark, shadowy figure. He looks scary. He's got maybe a little bit of spiky hair, which makes him even scarier. He almost looks vampire ish there. And I think we're seeing Abby's perspective of him in the rearview mirror. That's why he looks like that, in my opinion.
You're probably right. Like also with all the heavy shadows, obviously he's not going to look like Constantine, but it's just I don't know. Even Abby's face doesn't have the shock that I was kind of like,
Yeah, Abby's face could have been a little better here. And you know
but
what? If
uh,
I was sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but it's like I can't complain too much because it's like the rest of this, and then you even go to the next page and the artwork is beautiful. So it's like, not everything's gonna be perfect.
Not everything's perfect, and if I were ever going to give a book a perfect score of 5, a panel like this would knock it off that perfect score. So, spoiler alert, this issue does not get a perfect score. So far, still at 0 issues with the perfect score for me. We come to Abby bringing Constantine back to Swamp Thing in the swamp, with Swamp Thing questioning who this is. Constantine has blackmailed Abby into bringing Constantine to Swamp Thing. He's threatened to tell her work that she is sleeping with a plant. Constantine notes that he knows he's a scumbag for doing so. Yes, scumbag of the DC Universe. He knows it, he acknowledges it, he lives with it. I'm okay with that.
And again, pay very close attention to the panel where we get the close up the top of Constantine's face. Does that look like anybody to you? Have you picked up on who that kind of looks like?
Vaguely familiar, but no, I don't have anybody.
All right, we're almost at the end, so I
At the
will
end,
quiz you
okay.
at the end.
We'll get there. Swamp Thing gets angry at Constantine for threatening Abby, but Constantine just takes it in stride and introduces himself. He asks Swamp Thing if Swamp Thing minds if Constantine smokes. Swamp Thing says yes, and Constantine lights up anyway. Because, of course, he does. He's a scumbag. That's what he does. Constantine lets Swamp Thing know a lot more about Swamp Thing's powers and abilities than even Swamp Thing does. Constantine tells Swamp Thing that Swamp Thing can grow a new body anywhere in the world whenever Swamp Thing wants to. Swamp Thing is unsure why he would want to do that, and Constantine tells him it's a great way to travel. Constantine also calls Swamp Thing, quote, the last plant elemental in the entire bloody world. So that seems like a big deal.
Definitely. And it's one of the things I love about Constantine is I remember I think it was in the Books of Magic miniseries that Neil Gaiman wrote that Constantine showed up and there was a line where he shows up in a bar and I think he's with Zatanna, but I don't remember for sure, but I believe he was Zatanna and like everyone's afraid of Constantine. And Zatanna throws away the line of it's like, well, why is everyone afraid of you? You don't have any powers. You don't do anything. And I always kind of like that. It kind of feels like Constantine knows all this stuff, but it's like you never actually see him out there in the Justice League doing all the stuff that like you see Doctor Fate or somebody doing. He's like, yeah, no, I can blackmail you because I know this, I know how to do this, but I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. That's exactly why I love Constantine. At that point, Constantine decides that Swamp Thing is too stupid to help and says goodbye. Swamp Thing asks Constantine to wait. Abby tells Swamp Thing he doesn't need Constantine. Swamp Thing asks Constantine to tell Swamp Thing about himself. Constantine declines, saying it was a bad idea to try and get help in the first place. Constantine is clearly not a teacher.
I don't know. He kind of reminds me of a couple substitute teachers I had back in the day. So I can't really say he's not a teacher because I do remember some asshole teachers that were kind of, pardon my language, but and they would smoke. They were jerks like that. So he
Now
may
that you
say he's
said
not a
that,
teacher, but it comes off.
I know exactly which substitute teacher you're talking about for me. His name was actually Mr. Crouch.
I feel like a lot of us all had a substitute teacher, or at least one teacher in our life that was exactly like Constantine, that complete jerk, and that was possibly even a chain smoker, and just a horrible person.
And everybody called him Mr. Crotch, which he loved, I'm sure. Constantine does say that Swamp Thing can get answers. He just needs to keep up with Constantine to get the answers that he wants. And even then, Constantine says he won't promise Swamp Thing any answers. Again, continuing to be kind of a scumbag. I dig it. This guy is, very his own man, doesn't have patience, and he seems very, very British, and he is. He's a British character, but I've seen a lot of British characters with a very similar attitude from British writers. So it feels like he's almost kind of an archetype.
Yeah, but it kind of feels like he was one of the first parts of that archetype. Like he was one of the original ones from that.
At least
Because a
in the
lot of the
comic
ones
book
that
world,
I've
yeah.
seen, yeah, only in the comic book world. Because I mean, like, yeah, like now looking at comic books, like there's a lot of times you see a British character pop up. It's like a Constantine. I mean, I think the Authority. There's like 9 different characters that probably have that attitude.
Yeah, he and Jimmy Sparks, I think, would get along. So at that point, Swamp Thing wonders how he will find Constantine if Constantine leaves. Constantine says he has friends in many places and he moves around a lot. But Constantine says he will be in Rosewood, just outside of Chicago, in a week's time. Swamp Thing can find him there, assuming Swamp Thing can figure out how to make it there. So I like how Constantine knows that Swamp Thing wants answers, but he's pushing Swamp Thing. He's saying, you have to make yourself better. You have to grow your body faster. You have to do things more quickly if you want the answers you're seeking. So, yes, Constantine is being an a hole, but he is also helping Swamp Thing grow at the same time. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, he's a scumbag, but he's also helping.
Yeah, that's kind of a trope that you see a lot and that kind of stuff of the guy that's got to push you to like you've got to be the jerk to push the person to become a better version of themselves. I've seen that trope done a lot in media, basically in stories and stuff. And Constantine's living up to it.
Yep, 100%. Once again, the panel work on this page is amazing. I really wish we could get Vetch on art all the time. This page is a close up of a bunch of faces, and every single one of them looks like a normal face. Nobody's having a stroke like they would be in Bissett's art.
No, but there is a panel where Constantine looks constipated, but that's a different story. The interesting thing is, I just kind of noticed though between 18 and 17 here, the panel work matches. It's like it, but it flips. From my perspective, since this is on 17 is on the right hand side, you've got the circles, and then like the panels kind of coming out like that, and then you flip it over, and then on the left hand side, circles on the left, and then it's like the exact same panel design but reversed. That's
And
that's really cool. I just noticed that
and you see it again on page 16 before that too.
on.
So there's 3 pages in a
Oh, you're
row.
right. Oh, you're right. Wow, that's kind of cool. Like I've never seen that before, where they kind of like.
And then when we move on to page 19, we've once again got 3 circles. They're in different places, but it's 3 circles and some stuff in the middle with the panels just kind of projecting out. And yeah, Vetch is a genius. This is great. This is phenomenal. It really is.
Panel work on this. Like I'm like going back and looking at it, like I read it today and I was so busy reading it that I wasn't admiring the artwork. So like as we're filming this now, I'm just sitting here admiring the artwork. I'm like, wow, he really did hit the ball out of the park here with this panel work. There's a lot of cool stuff on here.
He did. And this issue's getting kind of long, so I'm going to cut us off there on the panel work. So we switch to the next page and we see Emma's nightmare has come to life. And also the other people that Constantine seemed to have visited are having problems of their own. Emma actually pitches herself through a window to avoid her nightmare drawing come to life. She did not survive the way she landed on the sidewalk. And then Judith, Benjamin, and the nun are all freaking out too, and freaking out all the people around them.
Yeah, with the nun twisting the doll head and everything, like that's kind of creepy.
Yes, it is. It's very creepy and very exorcist like, which is appropriate given the nun. Then we go to day 17, back in the swamp. Abby says that Swamp Thing owes her a honeymoon. Apparently, their communion hmm was actually a wedding, I guess. Swamp Thing disappoints Abby by telling her that he has to go to Rosewood to see Constantine. We see Swamp Thing wasn't paying attention to Abby's wish for a honeymoon and asked Abby what she was talking about. She responds, nothing. Once again, showing that some of her lack of self confidence is still kind of there beneath the surface.
Yeah,
This made me really sad because she has done so much work and she's become such a better person. And then to kind of have Swamp Thing treating her dismissively the way Matt did, it's not cool.
he's Swamp Thing. He's an elemental. He's got like a lot of things going on in his mind besides his girlfriend. The whole fate of the universe could be in the palm of his hands at the moment. You kind of got to suck it up. You don't date a superhero and then get upset because the superhero's not there all the time.
That's fair. I get it. He's got a lot on his mind. You're right. He's trying to save the world. At the same time, it just hurts a little bit to see Abby regressing like that. She should have spoken up. She should have told him. She maybe should have even called him out for not listening to him.
Yeah, you got to work through those emotional relationship problems. That's how this works. But to me, it was tragic because you see her so happy throughout the whole issue, and then it ends with her basically being sad Abby again. It's like that sucks.
That's amazing, amazing writing by Moore. Build her up, build her up, build her up, make the audience feel great for her, and then slam back to the ground.
Oh yeah, he smacked her down.
So overall, this issue is, I think, the best issue of Swamp Thing I've read so far. Some of that's just going to be Constantine. He's my favorite, so I'm bound to like the issue more. I'm going to give this 4.75 out of 5 Hellblazers, which is the closest I've gotten to a perfect 5. We're not there yet, but this one's so, so close.
I feel like I throw a 5 out a little too much, but I'm very easily impressed. You ever, go to the movies with me, you'll understand that very simply. I'm going to give it a 5 because of the panel work, the writing, everything just really kind of hit with me. I only have two things to throw out there before we close the show. One of them being on page 22, the top left panel, there is a bearded man smoking. Does he look familiar to you?
Oh, Alan Moore put him. Well, I'm sorry, Rick Veitch put Alan Moore in the comic, huh?
Yeah,
I
I
missed
just
that.
noticed. I was like, dude, that's kind of cool.
All right,
And then my
mystery. What
final
was
thing is,
you were going to tell us?
yes. So I'm going to give you one guess as
Okay.
who do you think Constantine is based off of, look
I
wise?
literally don't know, and I'm assuming it's a celebrity, and I'm not great with
Yes.
celebrity names. When you tell me, I'll probably go, okay, and then I'll have to look them up and see what they look like to remember.
You'll know who it is.
Okay.
This is what my brother told me that he read. One of the reasons that Constantine was created was because I thought it was Bissett, but maybe it was Veitch. It was one of the two artists wanted to draw Sting in the comic book. And so Sting was the design for Constantine.
Okay, I'm going back. 100% I do see it.
This is the only time I've ever seen it. This is the first time I've ever read Constantine's first appearance. So I've only seen the later stuff. I've never seen him look like Sting except for here.
So here's my thing. I am familiar with older Sting, and this looks like contemporary Sting. He doesn't look as old. He looks like the age he was in 1985. I think that's
Yeah.
why I didn't pick up on it because I'm used to a much older Sting. It looks different in modern times. Not a lot, but when
But
he's
yeah,
aged, he looks a little different. So I think that's why I didn't pick it up.
I agree. But that was the only thing I had to throw out there was I was just curious if you knew that about the whole Sting connection to Constantine.
I hadn't heard that before. Well, that's going to be our show for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are really glad that you're with us watching. Do this for the love of the comics medium. We love reading comics. We love talking about comics. Believe it or not, when we're offline not doing this show, we're still talking about comics. That's how much we love them.
Even when we're online talking about comics, recording this show, like sometimes this will go 3 or 4 hours because we just won't shut up about like random stuff that doesn't even make it into the show. Hopefully, those will be outtakes that will pop online for people at Patreons. Speaking of Patreon, good segue. Please join us on Patreon, where we have our post crisis chat book club for our members. On there, we will let our Patreons get their say on the book, and we'll read some of those comments on the channel when we record. Our one Patreon subscriber right now, send us some stuff. We'll mention it on air.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget to check the description down below. There are links to our Amazon affiliate page. You can pick up the book that we're reading here tonight in different formats. You can get it in a single trade paperback. You can get the box set of trade paperbacks. It's like $50 and you get 6 trade paperbacks, 5 or 6 trade paperbacks. It is a great value for your money, a great way to see Alan Moore's comics. Or if you just really need to see that Rick Veitch artwork in a big oversized format, take a look at those Swamp Thing Absolute editions. Can't say that about Bissett's work. Hey, we've got a Rick Vetch best panel I've ever seen in Swamp Thing. You want that oversized art, you want to see it. If you follow the Amazon affiliate link down below to pick up that Absolute Swamp Thing, a little bit of the money from your purchase will come back to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's included in the price that you already see on Amazon, but a little bit of the money comes back to the channel, helps us upgrade lighting, microphones, all that kind of stuff, so you can see us in our beautiful high definition glory.
Now I kind of feel like people aren't going to buy it specifically so they can't see our faces in high definition. And I don't blame them. Are you not old and like me and know nothing about social media and stuff like that? If you aren't, then you probably know about Blue Sky and you can find us on Blue Sky. The link is in the description. If you go there, we'll be announcing when we post new episodes. Speaking of posting and stuff like that, whenever we post a new episode, we would really appreciate it if you give that video a like, give the channel a subscribe, comment as soon as you can, like make sure you're first on there. Those kind of things, for some reason, seem to help the channel grow. And, we want to be like Swamp Thing. We want to grow.
I love that. Maybe that should be our closing. We'll talk about that in a second. Lastly, a big shout out to our editor, Nacho King. You're the best, buddy. Thank you so much for putting up with us and our digressions and our mistakes and us fighting off spiders falling down from the ceiling. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we honestly could not do this without you because we know nothing about editing. So this would just be like 4 or 5 hour long videos of us rambling. So we definitely appreciate you.
The past few episodes, we have gone with May Your Fruit Hang Low and Your Jungle Always Be Trimmed as our closing out. Is it a little too self-serving to change that to we always know that's bad. May you always grow just like Swamp Thing? No, I don't know. What do you think, Cookie?
We'll stick with the jungle for now. But you know what? I feel like there's a little bit of something within that comment. If you can remember it, hold it in your brain, remind me, and I'll work on it. Maybe I can kind of come up with something for that.
So we'll never mention this again. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
for joining us. Have a good night.